we go.
Okay, we're up.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's session, which is around time-saving recruitment tips for 2023. Time is the enemy, as said by the Quantic Orchestra. I'm joined as always by Vince Lodi, who has got a load of information here to run through with us. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat function and I'll make sure they're raised at the end. And also, we are going to get a recording of this session and the slides if you want them, and I'll show you how to do that towards the end of the session. So without any further ado then, Vince, over to you.
Lovely, thanks Simon. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to try and keep this session short, sweet and to the point, just really highlighting on a number of issues that a lot of people are commonly facing. And we have handouts after this event as well, which you can have, and all the research information if you would like it. Again, just request it after the session itself. So, first of all, I will be presenting mainly today. I've been running PharmiWeb now for about 27, 28 years. Quite a lot of you I know quite well already. And Simon is joining me, who's the head of business development for PharmiWeb, to talk about some of the new AI and also some of the dangers of the new AI as well. So we'll touch on some of those things. The key thing really, I think, in anything time saving is to take the time, not make the time. If you're just making the time to do something, it's never going to be as good as allocating the time that you need to actually achieve that task. And I think it's a common mistake a lot of people make, and we're going to cover that a little bit around time management later. So when we're doing a couple of other things, we need to keep an eye on the market itself. That actually saves time if you know what's going on. So some of the key things from last year that we actually highlighted: poor economy is going to affect everything. The war, politics, inflation and revenues being down, diversification on services, conservatism, low investments. But the key one I really think for everybody in recruitment is making the most of the technology that you have. Looking at all the latest reports, suggesting that only 36% of the technology that's available is ever used. So if you have that technology, a lot of companies are thinking about, if you're not going to use it, we'll take it away. And it's one of those things that nice to have there, but you do need to use it. When we're looking at growth areas across the industry, again, these things will save you time if you're aware of it, keep ahead of it. Growth in oncology, digital and face-to-face sales harmonization, biotech growth, digital health growth, pipeline consideration. I think we're going to see a lot of that going on with the pharma companies. Diversification of services and portfolios, decentralization of clinical trials. There's going to be a lot of pressure under medical devices and a lot of pressure under biometrics. Bear in mind those if you're involved in any of those areas, because they're going to be the hot potatoes of this year. And the key thing really about all recruitment is have a very clear strategy. Develop that strategy now and make sure you're absolutely sure what it is so you can crack on straight away. So ways to find talent have actually changed as well. We need to be active and looking at passive candidates. Everyone, we know LinkedIn's about the figures of around 72% of all candidates are active all the time. Well, of course they are, because everyone's talking all the time. Within the next 2 years, 75% of the entire workforce will be millennials. And guess what? Everyone's connected. Everyone's online 24/7. Everyone knows what's going on in the world. So we've got to think about different ways of contacting people. And again, think about where you're going to approach candidates. And when you're looking at what you normally do, which is mainly LinkedIn, especially if you're in the US, think about the other platforms that you might be overlooking, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We know Twitter and Instagram are particularly good for recruiting scientists, for example, when you can use a molecule to actually attract them. And you've even got Pinterest as well. There's lots of valuable tools on those sites. Look at everything, look at omnichannel, and think about utilizing what you've got everywhere rather than just somewhere. So Simon, I'm going to pass over to you now to talk about the AI side of things, which everyone's talking about at the moment. As we've already said, there's some very good positives, but there's some negatives as well. So over to you, Simon.
Yeah, of course. So I guess the first thing to say when it comes to AI is one of the things we've always said is automate as many things as possible, because automation is our friend. You can, of course, take this a step further, because if you're looking at things like, the buzzword of January 2023, for example, ChatGPT, this is great because not only is it going to allow you to save time when it comes to things like writing job adverts, but also it's going to save you time when it comes to writing copy as well. So currently what we know about this is it's a free beta. It's on version 3 at the moment, which isn't perfect. The machine is learning. When V4 comes and when the subscription-based parts of it come, it's going to be a much more powerful tool that we can utilize. So I've done a bit of research on this myself. Something that I've done is I've taken some rather long-winded job posts, they're more job descriptions to be honest, and asked it to turn this into an engaging job advert. It'll do it. It'll do it pretty well, to be honest. But the thing that you need to be aware of is why you can't put this into your time management at the moment is it's so darn busy, no one can get in it. So if you are going to plan out your job advert writing and now you believe it's only going to take you 5 minutes, you can't rely on that. You've got to make sure you give yourself the time to do this. Google themselves, obviously, they believe that knowledge is their domain. They will be launching their own tools, and also things like IBM will be doing their own versions as well. So soon there will be multiple platforms that we can use to save us a bit of time when it comes to writing text, doing things that take a lot of time that way. On to the next one, please, Vince. AI, of course, is used in lots of different ways. It isn't just in terms of copy. So things like PharmiWeb, for example, we have our own AI. This is something that allows us to do things like personalize the experience for individual job seekers. A lot of other job boards will be looking at this technology in the coming months and years as well. But essentially, the aim behind automation, from our point of view, is giving people much more matched experiences to what they want and making sure also that our candidates are matched to the job that they expect to have. On to the next one, please. So from our point of view, other ways that job boards can utilize AI, or even websites can utilize AI to save themselves a bit of time is, for example, job matching. AI algorithms are able to actually match job seekers with the right thing that they're looking for based on keywords, geographies, disciplines, years experience, all of these different fields that we would normally look for in the recruitment process. We can also screen CVs and resumes with AI. We can also use an AI chatbot to make sure it does some of the fielding. Biggest question in recruitment, probably, do you have the right to work in this country? Yes, no, we can automate that with AI. Also, predictive analysis, we can actually do an element of data science using AI, which is going to give us better data to feed back to people like yourselves. And finally, personalization is everything. If you're able to get AI to personalize people's experience, you're going to save time having to field questions and actually, being more of a help desk, which is something we'd all like to avoid. On to the next one, please. So we summarized a few tools that we thought might be of interest to you for multiple reasons. As I've said already, copy text, it's things like ChatGPT, and there are other ones, copy AI as well, which you can use. Images is another good one. If your main way of attracting people is by the more visual means, your Instagrams, your LinkedIns, then you can actually use AI to create copyright-free images that you can use to give your work that extra little boost. Whoever's designed these images here is obviously having a bit of a bleak day because they're pretty tragic, but you can put in whatever you want and get a result. So we ran some pretty good tests. I want a picture of a scientist who's happy at his job, done. I want a picture of someone looking for a new job, done. You can completely customize the experience based on what you're looking for to fit in with your brand as well, because you can name colors. So if your logo is predominantly purple and pink, you can add that in as well. Another medium that we absolutely can't avoid is video. Anyone who's connected with me on LinkedIn will know that I like to do a bit of video work there because it's good, frankly. Video can now be AI driven as well. You can actually get avatars, not the blue ones from the cinema, but people that look like actual people delivering your messaging. This is good because it means you don't have to go and hire an actor. You don't have to worry about camera quality. You don't have to worry about anything like that. You just put the avatar over your branded background and you can give it subtitles. You can give it what you want it to say and it will vocalize it. You can also change the intonation so it doesn't just sound like your home assistant telling you what's going on. You can make it a bit more personal as well. This will save you time if you are looking at proactively attracting people. You can use video to do just about anything from business development to a job description. So I'd really recommend spending a bit of time looking at video. On to the next one, please. The reason that we have so many different things to think of is because the data is telling us at the moment a candidate's not likely to engage with what you're putting out in the market until that sixth time that they see your branding. So by the time that they've seen your job adverts, your videos that you're putting out across social media, your pictures, your white papers, your website, all of these different things add up until eventually they go, you know what? I know just enough about this company now to look into them in greater detail and see if I fit in with what they want and they fit in with what I want. So it's really important to take a more omni-channel, if you don't mind moving on to the next slide, Vince, approach on everything, because omni-channel is the way forward. If you can automate your exercises in a way that's going to allow your information to reach multiple channels quickly, you're going to save yourself time. So, for example, one thing that PharmiWeb does is it will scrape jobs. It will come into your website every day, take your jobs and put them on PharmiWeb. Think about how much time that would save you compared to manually going and uploading every single job. We're probably talking the best part of an hour a day. What could you do with an hour a day that you get back? Another thing that you could look at doing is automating press releases. You could look at automating things like LinkedIn statuses, where we now have the opportunity to schedule, which is a new service they've offered. You can save time by doing that. The options are endless, but if you're just doing one thing and one thing only, you're fighting a losing battle at the moment. The aim is to be in as many places as possible. On to the next one, please, Vince.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Okay, so we're going to move over now and look at probably the biggest question and the thing that comes up most with pretty much all of our clients is time planning. What are the things we can do to really help ourselves? So there's never enough time. Doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to run out. My day starts at around 6 and ends at around 7 or 8. So, it never ends. I wish I could work a normal day, but you can't. And I don't think anyone does anymore. So there's a couple of things we can do. First of all, you can think about yourself. Analyze your current work habits. Think about what you like doing, what you don't like doing. Think about what you enjoy, what you dread, what's easiest, what's hardest, etc., etc. And actually allow the right amount of time to do those things. So if something you find really easy, you can allocate less time. Obviously, something really hard that you don't want to do, you just got to put the time in and do it, whether you like it or not, basically. So I basically work with a lot of clients around how they actually do that. So you've got time boxing. First of all, you give yourself periods of time to actually make sure you can get the right things done. Have your fixed deadlines in there. When the time runs out, it runs out. So no more sitting on LinkedIn and getting carried away and being there 4 hours later. You might only have an hour. Have an inbox zero policy. Make sure your inbox is actually empty. It's achieved, it's done, especially by the end of the day. And obviously, we've got the Eisenhower matrix where we think about time management from a project management point of view, and we start to label tasks, what's important, not important, urgent, non-urgent. So I'm going to visualize this for you. I've been doing this for probably the last 20 years. And what we're going to do is look at how you plan that out. So if you're time boxing, basically, the simplest way to do it is Monday to Friday and split it into 2-hour slots, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, etc., etc. And you start to fill in these boxes with the jobs or the tasks that you're actually going to be doing in that time. The key thing is, if you're putting something in between 10 and 12, you've only got 10 to 12 to do it. That means shutting down your phone. It means not answering your emails. It means not answering any phone calls or emails. You're just focusing on that task because that's the only time that you have. But we can ramp this up a little bit. We can actually break it down to hour slots, which is what I use. And I also bring in the work-life balance by bringing in Sundays and Saturdays as well. So at the beginning of the week, what do I need to prepare? What am I doing Monday to Friday on an hourly basis? What am I doing on a Saturday so I don't forget anything? I've got a head like a sieve. I forget what's going on in my personal life all the time, causing me no end of problems. I miss things and I can't afford to do that. So I now put everything in. But what I do is I have my red boxes. These are the times when I will not do anything. No one can put anything in my calendar because they're my allocation of task boxes. They're the things that I must get done. Again, some people like to work this way, some people don't. It works for me and it works for a lot of people. If it doesn't work for you, that's absolutely fine. But you must be a lot clearer of what you've got to do than I am because I can't keep up. So the other thing you've got to think about when you're doing these time things is think about regular breaks. And that's, you've got to have a break between each time blocks. You've got to switch off from that to move on to the next thing. Burnout is a big thing. It has slowed down a little bit because people are thinking a lot more about their well-being. but it's certainly out there. So take the breaks that you can. And when you're taking breaks, and I picked this up with a number of people just recently, they were taking breaks once they'd finished work and they were going from one screen to another to play a computer game at lunchtime. That's not taking a break. Get out in the fresh air, get out in the mornings, block that time in. So have a time box of walking the dog, going for a walk, just walking around the block, whatever it is, but switch off, give you a chance to go back to being a human, because essentially that's what we are. We are not machines. So when you're looking at my basics of what I do on a basic day, this was the first week back after Christmas. So an example being on the left here, I had to do my tax return, boiler service, clean sauce, gutters clean, mortgage meetings. Then I had work webinars, project slides to do, POs to raise, etc., etc. I had to plan out what I was doing before. So there was times when I was working out and planning what I was going to do the following day, and then breaking everything down into those hour slots. I literally just write it on. It just gives me an idea of what I can do and what time I've got. And obviously things like, you know, for date night, my wife would go to the cinema, we were traveling, etc., etc. All of these things will help because obviously they then make you think about what have I got to get done. So if I'm going to a meeting, I've got to prepare for that meeting. It gives me time. I can actually book that in. I book in my travel time, which I've never done before. So that it gives people a chance to know that I'm actually traveling, so they can probably call me, but they can't do anything else because I'm not going to respond to anything. So there's lots of things here that might help, but it's the single biggest thing that I'm finding with all clients at the moment is how do I manage my work-life balance with work? This is the way I do it. If you've got a better way, I'd love to hear it. And I also plan out sometimes 2-3 months in advance with a bigger plan as well. So we have some documents available, which we've already downloaded from a lot of the AI machines. We've got 50 time saving tips, 10 time management tips, and 10 time saving recruitment tips. All of these things are available. We can send them to you afterwards if you want to see the basic data that set all this up. They're all things you'll know, but sometimes you have to look at it and think, oh, I've forgotten that one. And that's what they are, just an aid memoir more than anything else. However, it's not just about time management. Retention will also save you a huge amount of time if you get your retention policies correct. So key thing is it saves you time for recruiting new individuals. It stops the loss process with individuals that are leaving the company and all the time that's spent dealing with that. It reduces time and money spent on training new employees because most of the people are already there. Turnover in recruiting is a lot of hassle, especially if you get into legal issues, and it allows you to connect with other employees as well. So basically, think about retention as a real key way to save you time. If you don't have to recruit someone in the first place, it's a good thing. The other thing that's coming and becoming more and more common in the industry is fraud. There's a lot of fraud in clinical research. There's a lot of fraud starting to appear in regulatory with people that can't actually do the job. And there's certainly a lot of fraud in IT as well. So again, think about the types of people that you're recruiting, be aware of the fraud, do double checks. You can use AI to actually help and support that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a human interaction that sorts it out. If you get this wrong, it's going to take huge amounts of your time going down the legal route, and it's going to take huge amounts of time trying to explain why you've lost some business to the business itself because you didn't take this into account. Fraud is a big issue. It is growing, especially with the AI. They can answer any question almost immediately if they're on the right systems. And again, think about what do candidates want from a time management point of view. If you give them what they want from the outset, rather than trying to sell them something that you want to give them, it's a completely different conversation. The candidate is clean without any choice. So if you're recruiting people, the key things they're looking for, biggest one is always going to be money, although that's not the be all and end all. That's starting to tail off. Work-life balance is becoming important. The culture of the company, the morale of your current employees is a big one. What are the colleagues like they're going to be working with? Is there a personal development plan for them as an individual? So what sort of training are you going to get from the outset? Is it going to be roadmap? Are there going to be benchmarking? Are they going to be appraised regularly so they can make sure they're staying on track? Performance monitoring and giving good recognition to candidates. These are the 8 key things that all candidates want. Give them the right things, including your internal staff, and they will either stay or they will be the best employees you've ever had. If they don't get these things, guess what? They'll just go and get it somewhere else. So when we're looking at work-life integration, this is a big challenge for everyone. How do you actually make it work? Because there is no 9 to 5 anymore. You know, people are working earlier, leaving earlier, people are working later. There's all sorts of different options. We're starting to see a lot of flexibility with companies where they're actually offering a particularly good candidate or people that they want to join the organization, the work-life balance that they want, including the work hours that they want. And that might include less working days, it might be longer days, some days and shorter days others, whatever suits the individual. So the more flexible you can be, the better it is. We're certainly developing that a lot within the PharmiWeb environment as well. So again, top 10 tips, really, things that constantly come up. I'm just going to pick on the main 5. Time management and prioritizing. Things overrunning, projects overrunning, they become a nightmare. They run in from 1 week to the next, or 1 day to the next, and you're behind all the time. Don't be behind, be ahead. Optimize your current tech stack. Again, lots of companies looking at this. They're very expensive. If they're not being used, why do you have them? Use mobile optimized career sites. Make sure candidates can apply easily and simply. One of the big drop-offs on all applications of candidates, if they start on a mobile phone looking at your website and have to leave to go on their desktop, 32% will not come back. That's across the board. So make sure anything that's mobile optimized is good. Flexible work arrangements we already talked about, and having a really clear marketing strategy around your brand, your employer branding, your recruitment, your development, all those sorts of things you're doing to attract that top talent. So when we're looking at personalization, this is really down to individual candidates. You've got to promote your individual culture, think about your EVP, think about your onboarding process and beyond from day 1 or before. Career development roadmaps are really important. Internal mobility to help maintain the staff you've already got. Remote and flexible working, and money. Be competitive, but don't be overly competitive because it's a big cost. If you can get the other things right, you don't really have to focus so much purely just on the money. So when we're looking at employee stabilization, I've shown a few people this diagram. This is what a number of companies are starting to deploy to make sure that it actually helps with that recruitment process and saves time, because we're getting to a point where I think it's nearly 7 or 8% of candidates across the board now are starting to leave within the first 10 weeks because it's not what they were expecting. So pre-joining teams to support candidates, give them the right information, weekly contact and introductions to members of the team to make them feel that they're part of the team before they even start. Within the first month, development roadmaps, talk about where they're going in their career, what training do they need, what are their benchmarking, etc., etc. Support them, review them on a weekly basis, evaluate them and give them better training. These 2 first areas will also help you to cut down the fraudulent candidates because they're going to be caught out early in the process rather than when they've actually been with you. Within the first year, regular reviews. Are they fit for the team? Is the work right for them? Is their performance right? And a training review. What have they done? Where do they want to go? What are you offering them? And on the career development side of things, what internal mobility can you offer them? And regular appraisals to make sure that they're on track. Most people want fast track as far as promotion is concerned. That's all well and good if they can do the job. If they can't, they need to be managed correctly or they will just leave. Just because someone's not fit or not the right person to be a top level manager doesn't mean they're not an important member of the team. Again, it's managing expectations. The next one is boomerang employees. We know a lot of them have left. There's some good people, really good experience. A lot of them want to come back. If you've lost someone that was really good, to save some time, you can always go and approach them again and say, would you be interested in coming back? Even if it's sort of shorter term or a different working arrangement, if there's someone that was really great for the organization, try and coax them back, because most people are finding, obviously, I suppose work-life balance is difficult, but also the economy is causing issues around whether they can afford to retire or not. So if you have lost someone very good, it's worth asking that question. It does save you time trying to find someone to replace them. And in conclusion, usual things really. Have a strategy, a plan, make sure you're using the technology. Think about your unique selling points as an organization. Think about EVP. Think about the locations and benefits per location, the type of candidates you're trying to recruit, projects and the type of work they're going to be doing. Think about future prospects for all candidates when they join and even before they join. Staff retention and internal mobility are an absolute must. And have very clear development programs and make sure that all of your materials, internal communications actually allow people to see what they actually are. So finally, have a clear strategic view of 2023. I think it's business as usual with a touch of caution, and be agile enough to adapt and change to the market, because I think by the time we get to March time, end of March, things will be back to where they were before. Ring fence those really good employees with competitive packages and benefits. And bear in mind that human resources is still a major priority for most companies in 2023, and I cannot see it changing. You've got to have the right people, we've got to be agile, and we've got to be fit for business. Any questions? You're muted, Simon.
We've got a couple, but I'd definitely say if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the chat while I'm going through the few that we have here. So the first one is, do you have any specific LinkedIn time-saving tips? As we predicted earlier, it's probably the biggest one that most people struggle with.
Yeah, we're actually looking at putting a whole webinar together on that. We're just waiting for the latest update on AI and the new technology that's being deployed, and then we'll come back to you with a date. We'll probably do that as a separate thing. We might be able to do it individually for companies as well, depending on what sort of level you are. But I know this is something we're looking at the moment. So watch this space, because it will be another webinar date that's coming out.
From me personally, I spend a fair amount of the day on LinkedIn. I stick to what's called the 4-4-2 rule, which is designed to keep your engagement up, but it's designed to stop you just scrolling and not doing a whole lot while you're on there. So the 4-4-2 rule is like 4 things, comment on 4 things, and do that twice a day. That's going to keep your engagement up. It's going to keep you in people's feeds if that's what you're looking for. If you're specifically meaning about the recruitment process online, to be honest, no, because I think one thing that sets good and bad recruiters apart is due diligence, and that's something you can only get by putting the time in. So if you're spending hours on LinkedIn, but you're getting good candidates, that's good. As far as I'm concerned, I hope that answers the question. The next is, can you recommend any team time management tools?
Oh, blimey. There's hundreds of them out there. I personally like something as simple as the planner that I've shown you, which actually breaks you down into the time slots, this sort of thing. I haven't come across anything better than that, to be honest. I mean, we used Teams as a team. We also used a couple of other internal tools, but they're all pretty much the same. It's just what's the fit to sort your organization, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Monday.com is good because it allows you to have multiple people on multiple boards. So if you have projects that you're all working on, you can set deadlines, that kind of thing. The one downside I would say of using software like this is it relies on people to have it open. And again, getting people to engage with a new bit of kit is sometimes really, really hard. So yeah, I think that's a tricky one. But if you are just looking for day-to-day operation and management of people's times and deadlines, Monday.com. Job posting is something that takes a long time for us, definitely more than an hour. Any tips?
I think the key one is templates. Come and do some training. It's free. We'll do it for you. But build templates, make it really quick. Use scrapers to then come in and actually take the jobs. Anything that automates the process is really good. I mean, the AI is really great for writing them, but you still need to do adjustment. You still need to look at them. And to be honest with you, you're always going to need some sort of human interaction. But when it comes to bulk job postings or multi-job postings, there's a whole range of different things there. I mean, the biggest one for me that's made the biggest difference in the industry, I think, was really the job scrapers, because we know Google really likes that, gives you a better opportunity to engage with Google. So yeah, that sort of thing works. Simon, what about you? Anything else you'd add to that?
Multi-posters is the big one for me. So, things like Broadbean, which if you're using multiple portals will just allow you to send to all. That's going to save you time. If you're doing PharmiWeb, then you're doing LinkedIn, then you're doing Indeed and Monster, and going down to regional level. I can see why that takes so much time. Invest in a multi-posting tool, and as Vince says, scrapers. If you are using job boards, I would after this go and speak to all of them, and see if they do have a scraping service that you could use. As Vince said earlier, optimize your current tech stack. Look at what you've got. Look at all the bits of kit and see if they have things that will save you time that they can do for you. One of the last ones is how can I get hiring managers to be quicker and more organized?
Stick a boot up the backside. No. I think the problem with hiring managers is they need to stop looking at talent acquisition as a service and start seeing it as a partnership. If you can crack that, you've got a different type of hiring manager. One of the biggest problems in the industry at the moment is, should we say, middle to slightly higher management that's not used to dealing with millennials or working at the speed that we're working at now as far as life is concerned. I say to people regularly, we're all now working at internet speed. If you're still working at day-by-day speed, then you're out already. You've lost the game. So it's got to be faster. It's got to be more strategic. You've got to have a more of an advanced view on what's coming. Need to have sit downs probably once a week with the hiring managers if they're going to be recruiting a lot of people, and actually talk to them about what do you need this week, but also what do you think you're going to need in 3 months' time. Give us the time to get the people that you need. We're starting to see a lot more of this in America now, where they were so used to just turning people around really, really quickly. That whole dynamic has changed. So they're all sort of feeling a little bit lost because it's taking too long and they're not quite sure how to deal with it. So strategic view, what are you going to need over a longer period of time? Don't just tell me what you need next week. Change the dynamic.
Yeah, long term is definitely the best solution. If you could do a month by month planner, look at what the headcount growth is going to be, etc., that'll be great. Obviously, some things do just come out the woodwork, don't they? And you can't really help it in that situation. But for the most part, I'd say as much organization as possible. Just quickly stopping into the chat very quickly, I've had 2 questions about how you can receive the presentation. If you email us, sales@PharmiWeb.com, we'll make sure that the video and the slides will come over to you. Or if you just want one or the other, let us know, and we'll make sure that happens. I've also had a couple of questions about fraud. Are there any special tips to recognize fraud better, as we notice the increase of that as well?
No, there are no tips. Everyone I'm talking to is saying it's an absolute nightmare. It's taking a lot of time. It's causing a lot of problems. The people you're dealing with are well organized. They know what they're talking about. They've really worked hard on making sure they've got this covered. And by the time you pick them up on it, it's normally 3 months in. One of the only things you can do is, like I was showing you earlier, have a pre and onboarding team. Get them actually physically talking to people before they join. As part of your onboarding process, because your people are going to start thinking, oh, that was a weird thing to say, or that wasn't quite right. That's the only thing that seems to be making a difference. Otherwise, it's just potluck. It really is.
Yeah, as much face time as possible. If you start getting fraudsters to commit a bit of time, obviously within a reasonable amount, because then they're just not going to do it. But if you can do a pre-onboarding session, if you can do as much of a background check as possible, LinkedIn is good, but it's not the best when it comes to everything because everybody lies. It's a very, very hard thing. But yeah, as much as possible, spend time with them and a bit of a background check. Is the fraud related to academic qualifications or experience or both? Yeah, both.
Absolutely everything. Yeah.
Everything, birthplace, even, there are so many different things that people are lying about to get through the doors of your company, and definitely in at those high pay grades as well. But the roles to most watch out for are the ones that don't have a whole lot of face time. So the ones that you'd normally only check in with once a month, because they will sit there, do nothing, and claim that first paycheck, sign on bonus, and they'll bounce. That's why I think as much talking as possible is a good way to stop this as much as we're able to. And one last question, unless anyone has any more, please do pop them in the chat and I'll get them asked. The last question is contract versus perm. Just a question mark on that.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Everyone's trying to be really flexible at the moment. I think there's a lot of people who are having a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the economy and the war and everything that's going on, standards of living, etc. We've seen a lot of companies really starting to think about, do we do short-term contracts? Do we do interim work? Do we do combinations of permanent staff? It's so broad. It's a really difficult question to ask. I mean, it's going to be down to your individual company. I know that some of the smaller companies I'm dealing with from a management consultancy point of view are bringing on contractors for short-term gap filling whilst they decide on the sort of person they need to actually take that role. But if you're in a big company, sky's the limit, really. Really difficult one to answer, not one that I think we're qualified to do. I know it's something that a lot of companies are looking at. No one's quite sure which way to jump at the moment.
Yeah, hard one. Cope or cover is one of the things that we always sort of advise people. It's, can you survive 6 months without that person? What's it going to mean for the business? If it's going to be bad, get a contractor in, definitely. Corn Ferry put something out tail end of last year, which was this industry predominantly is looking at about a 70-30 split of permanent staff to contractors. I mean, that's kind of the only information I have at the moment regarding contract or perm, but I hope that at least answers your question. In that case, if there are no further questions, that does bring us to the end of today's webinar. As I said earlier, if you do want a copy of the slides or the video, email us, sales@PharmiWeb.com. I've got the first few coming in now, and we will make sure these come over to you. Alternatively, if you have any questions or any other bits that you want to ask, please do send us an email and we'll get that answered as well. But thank you for coming. The next one will be in a month's time, and it will be around how to write a great job advert. You'll see the alerts and emails coming out. Yeah, I can pop my email in the chat for you. And you'll see the emails and the alerts coming up for the next webinar over the next week or so. Anything else you want to finish with, Vince?
No, I don't think so. Just thanks everyone for coming along. And as I said, we'll be running these webinars throughout the year. We're going to keep them really short and sweet, to the point. There's a lot of research that goes into them. So if you want that, please let us know, and hopefully they're all useful. Thanks, Sue. Catch up with you soon.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Have a great day.